Hello, my little cacao beans. It's Carla, and today I'm gonna make chocolate and vanilla mousse in a white t-shirt. Don't you wanna see how that turns out? Because I know I do. The first step in making chocolate mousse, AKA chocolate mouse, is melting good chocolate and good butter. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I have a little double boiler set up over here. This is simmering water in a pan and a bowl that fits on top. And the most important thing is that the water and the bowl don't touch each other. We want to set it up that way because chocolate can burn if you cook it, and this will be a nice gentle cooking and gentle melting, and nothing will burn. It will be great. All right, I need 8 ounces of chocolate. So you want a nice bittersweet, semi-sweet chocolate. Little known fact, bittersweet and semi-sweet, if you look up how much cocoa solid has to be in the chocolate by the rules, it's the same amount of chocolate. So just depends on the brand that you're choosing, but something in the like 66 to 72% range will be a really nice bittersweet for this. This is really boiling. Bring it down to a simmer. And then to this, I'm going to add 2 ounces of unsalted butter. If this were cold, I would cut it into pieces first, but it's totally at room temperature. So that's just gonna go in there. Woo, we're boiling. This is gonna sit here just like this, passively stir it every few minutes, but the chocolate and the butter are just gonna melt together and get super glossy and gorgeous. Fun fact about me, I love chocolate mousse. When I was little, we called it chocolate mouse, of course. It was always like a special occasion dessert. I love that and creme caramel the most that my mom made. And if you scroll back 1,000 years in my Instagram, you will see that the very first photo I ever posted to Instagram is of a few ramekins of chocolate mousse that I made for my own children. There is a joke in my family about chocolate mousse because there was a famous chocolate mousse party where my mom made 1,000 gallons of chocolate mousse, and we've teased her for like 40 years since then. So actually, we're gonna get my mom on the phone during this video so she can tell her version of events. All right, I'm trying to do the pastry chef way where you just break the whole egg and then you pluck the yolks out. I did this once before and I found it a little bit hard. That one separated really nicely. But supposedly this is like faster and also less risky than passing it back and forth between 2 shells because the shells can pierce the yolk. We need to whip these eggs. If they have any yolk in them, they won't ever get volume. This episode is sponsored by Masterclass. You can use Masterclass to dive into just about any topic you can think of. My entire career in food has been shaped by learning from other people who are experts and know more than me and are sharing their knowledge with me to make me better at my profession. Masterclass takes that idea and brings it to life across so many different disciplines with dozens of experts in all kinds of areas that you can choose to learn from. Of course, I started with some of the culinary classes and get to choose from people like Madhur Jaffrey. Her book was the first Indian cooking book I ever had. Michael E. Twitty, whose book actually changed my life. And Dominique Crenn, one of the 3-star Michelin chefs, female chefs, American chefs who I have followed my entire career. They also have a really amazing bread course with Apollonia Polan, and you can sharpen up your pastry skills with none other than Dominique Ansel. But it truly is not just about culinary, and you can branch out with Masterclass to take courses in all kinds of categories. One of my current goals and practices is to spend less time on social media and more time enriching myself and learning things that make my life better. I never learned how to play chess, so that course with Garry Kasparov is very intriguing to me because my children know how to play chess, and now I would like to win. I've also been treating myself to flowers every other week because having fresh flowers in the house just makes me happy. So the course with Maurice Harris has been a great way to be able to buy flowers, bring them home, and then play around with shapes and colors and make the bouquets that look beautiful to me. Now is your time to get in on the goods. Plans start at $10 a month, billed annually. But wait, it gets even better. Go to the link in the video description right now to get 15% off your annual masterclass subscription. My hands are covered in chocolate, but my shirt is pristine. This is just about there, and actually I'm going to take it off. The most important thing is that the chocolate is completely melted and shiny. The residual heat from this metal bowl will take it the last little bit. I saw like a tiny piece of butter in there. I'm doing this step first also because the chocolate needs to cool. So once it looks like this, almost like this chocolate pudding, shiny, smooth, glossy texture, that's all you need. So to this, to this I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. So there's actually 2 full teaspoons of vanilla in this recipe. I was into the idea of like chocolate and vanilla mix, like those 2 flavors as ice cream twists that go together, or vanilla in a chocolate custard is so delicious. So I really tried to play up the amount of vanilla in this recipe to push that vanilla extract flavor. So it's a teaspoon in this chocolate mixture, big pinch of salt, and I'm just gonna mix that to make sure the vanilla completely incorporates, there's no liquid sitting around, and the salt melts. Once this is all combined, scrape down the sides. This is going to end up being the bowl that the entire mousse is built in. So I chose something a lot bigger than what I needed for the chocolate and the butter, because this ultimately will have the egg whites folded in. The chocolate actually takes longer to come to room temperature than you would think. So get that done, put it out of the way. As it's cooling, give it a stir every now and again to make sure that it's cooling evenly. Hello, Mother.
Hello.
You look delightful. You look terrific, but the topic that I'm about to introduce may cause some emotional distress.
Well, I already cried about it.
Did you? If I remember correctly, you had a potluck at 257, not a potluck.
I hosted. It was our neighbors from 257 gathering because our good friends and neighbors, the Martins, were moving to Rome. The poor things were going to have to go to Italy and eat that food for 2 years. We decided to have an American menu.
So you prepared a bunch of things for a buffet?
Yes, a buffet.
So what were you thinking about when you thought about the chocolate mousse?
Well, I think I made too much of everything. It was chocolate pudding, by the way.
Oh.
And I think that I just extrapolated the menu out. The recipe was probably for 6 or 8, so you do the math. It was a lot of pudding.
And then do you think you may have done a little smidge more because of one of your approaches to preparing food?
Yes.
Do you know what
I once said to the butcher, too much is better than not enough. And he said, I know, Mrs. Lalli.
At the end of the party, we sent people home with what I can only recall as like actual like buckets of pudding.
Yes, buckets of pudding.
And then for how many years have we teased you about the chocolate pudding?
At least a quarter of a century.
That we've been teasing you about this.
Yes.
Because then they were eating chocolate pudding for like weeks, and we also were eating chocolate pudding for weeks.
Well, I guess you're right. Maybe it was 90 gallons.
Now that we mention it, there was like a trough in the fridge.
It was a lot of pudding. I confess, I made too much pudding.
Well, I'm making the recipe from Where Cooking Begins that is based on the one from Julia Child that I think I grew up on.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember how little I was that you started making chocolate mousse and we were calling it chocolate mouse?
That was a reference also to Rosemary's Baby.
Right.
The neighbor was calling it mouse.
Right.
And also putting the poison into it.
Devilish mousse.
Right.
That was satanic mousse. It was a satanic mouse. Good reference. Iconic. Omega wants to know if I'm the spawn of Satan.
I'm afraid so. I got it. The second daughter was the little angel.
Oh, I see. Okay. No mousse for you. Okay, I love you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Love you too.
So the next step is to make whipped egg yolks. And it is really this step, I believe, of whipping the egg yolks with sugar over the heat to create volume that gives the finished mousse, like, of course it should be light and airy, but you also kind of, with chocolate mousse, you want that little bit of chewiness. Like, there should be like a little chew, a little QQ to the texture of the finished mousse. And that really comes from egg yolks and sugar. So I'm gonna whip these together until combined, and then it's gonna go back over the double boiler. Technically, if you have people who are in any way like immunocompromised, there's raw egg white in this, so it doesn't really matter that the egg yolks get heated. There's still raw egg in the mix. So I guess you would use pasteurized yolks and pasteurized whites. You need to be whisking the entire time because, kind of like carbonara, if these egg yolks cook, it's just gonna make like a tough scrambled egg type of mixture. So you want to whip this until the egg yolks are light and fluffy. They've gained some volume, light in color, light in texture, and the sugar is dissolved. So you can kind of hear the sugar in that sandy way on the bowl, and that's gonna eventually dissolve. So this is looking pretty good to me. You can see that like it went from orange to this like pale buttery color. Let me give it a little touch. I don't feel any sugar granules. I'm gonna whisk it a couple more times, and that's done. This is gonna get folded together with the chocolate, but the chocolate has to be cool before I can combine them. The egg yolks never got that hot, so let's see how this guy's doing. Yeah, it's pretty room temperature. Okay, perfect. So we've got another teaspoon of vanilla and another big pinch of salt. I'm gonna combine these. So this is light and airy to a degree, but it's also like stretchy and chewy. And as it cools, it's gonna get even more like that. And so that's sort of the textural role that this is playing. You still want it light, but the actual like big puffy airiness is gonna come from the egg whites, which is what I'm gonna do now. All right, so now we've got my 4 egg whites. You need a high-sided bowl. It doesn't have to be metal, but we're gonna build a lot of volume. So you need some real estate for that. I'm just gonna whip these egg whites with a little bit of salt until they're frothy before like we go all in. This thing, I've really never embraced, but I embraced it when I was prepping for this recipe, and it's kind of psychotic, and I kind of want to use it again. Okay, so that's like very frothy and more liquidy. The downside to this thing is it doesn't really have speeds. I mean, it has this dial on the top, but I don't really think that does anything. So what's gonna happen now is I'm gonna keep whipping because it's gonna get noisy until we have soft peaks, okay? And we can go over what is a soft peak of an egg white and what is a firm glossy peak of an egg white. Soft peaks, okay? They're bluebly. See that? Can only be described as bluebly. They wouldn't hold a peak, so if you turn this over, they bluebell down the other way. If you invert it, like definitely not, it's gonna slide around. But it does have like a cloud-like structure to it, and it's holding some shape in the bowl. And it kind of slides around in the bowl in like a liquidy way. That's another sign that you're at soft peak. Nothing wrong with soft peak. Soft peak can be very useful for certain recipes. And in this recipe, soft peak is when I can start to stream in the sugar, and it's the sugar that's gonna give it the high glossiness. It's obviously gonna sweeten it, and it's gonna help achieve the firm peak. With the beater going, I'm gonna have my 1/4 cup of granulated sugar at the ready to stream in. It is possible to over whip an egg, okay? Egg whites are amazing. They have protein that does special stuff, and then they have a way that the air bubbles in the protein make like a thing, and there's a lot of stretchiness in the protein, I think. But then the protein can also get stretched to a place where it can't stretch anymore. Adding sugar to the egg white does sort of slow things down and give you some more stability. But if you go too far, something that right now looks like very shiny and glossy can go to like grainy and clumpy. Just straight out and turn it over. So that's like the Dairy Queen peak. So I can go a little bit further to where it's like stays on its own, like a meringue. You can see the texture in the pattern that the mixer is leaving, the trail that the whisk or the mixer is leaving on the egg white. So just like look at that. If it looks really great, like stop, because you don't want it to look not great. Ah, see? Tiniest bit of a fold, but it stops before it fully folds over. Shiny, buoyant, super volume. The peak inside the bowl is still peaking. The mixture is not doing that slidey around weirdness that it was doing when it was just like frothy, right? It stays. Isn't this one of the tests?
Yeah.
So it's staying. My chocolate completely cooled down. Gonna just loosen it up a tiny bit. I have a nice big fat spatula. Our gorgeous floofy egg yolks, which again, kind of like just showing off this texture, that stretchiness that has become more stretchy as the egg yolk cools. And because this sits overnight, it's like gonna completely gel. So these two mixtures are gonna fold together completely. Just because you're folding them completely doesn't mean you wanna like hammer them. So still folding, and with folding, you're going to the bottom of the bowl and just trying to cut up through the middle instead of just like round and around stirring. Chocolate mousse looks so pretty when it's being folded together. You'll see this written sometimes in recipes where it'll say lighten the mixture with 1/3 of the egg white. So that just means if you put all of this egg white in at once, it would take so long to incorporate that you would lose a lot of volume of the egg white. So I'm gonna take like 1/3 of it first and just use that to kind of, it's almost like tempering, like when you take a very hot thing and whisk it into a cooler thing to get them closer to the same. So I'm starting with like a more heavy and dense thing, adding something light, and then finding some equilibrium that way. So this again is folding. And in this step, I want to completely incorporate the egg white, but we like sat here building up our peaks. So let's be nice to them. Okay, but this looks really good. That's a hot like lip gloss color. Somebody make that into a lip gloss for me. Okay, this is it. When everybody gets to be friends. Gorgeous. Fantastic. So again, I'm trying to cut through the middle all the way to the bottom of the bowl and like wrap, it's almost like wrapping the egg white through the middle. And you want this mostly combined, but a few streaks of egg white are okay. It's gonna get handled more when it goes into the bowl or the ramekins. So you can kind of combine it here, knowing that it's gonna get another couple of turns. All right, this looks gorgeous. Light, big airy bubbles. You could cool this down in little individual ramekins and everybody could get their own, or you could use teacups or coffee cups or like little bowls, anything to make individual portions. Another way to do it, which is also like fun and dramatic, is to just chill it down in one giant serving bowl. Well, this looks even better than the one that I made. And chill it in this, and then you can bring it to the table after dinner in a big bowl of mousse and then serve individual portions right out of that big bowl. And again, like even as I'm transferring it, I'm trying to be nice to it, pat it in there as opposed to like slopping it in there. Because even taking a spoonful and flapping it like bursts all those gorgeous bubbles. But you can see how airy it is. That's what you want. And whatever it looks like in this bowl is what it's gonna look like when it comes out of the fridge. Cover this, chill it. You could chill it down for 1 day, 2 days. You want it completely set. So like I would say minimum overnight, covered, and then you'll be ready to serve. As if things weren't whipped and light and airy and gorgeous enough, I have a little whipped cream here. Soft peaks of the whipped cream. This has a little vanilla in it. I don't usually sweeten my heavy cream, especially when it's going with something like very decadent and rich, because I like the contrast. You, of course, could put a little confectioner sugar in there. And then to serve from our large format, wow, it's a lot of pressure, the first spoonful. Oh yeah, see? That like airy, it's almost like fudgy in there. You know, like when you do the perfect scoop of ice cream and it leaves that like deep texture, that's what that reminds me of. Oh yeah, delightful and delicious and gorgeous. Wow, wow, wow. Take the whip and we whip the whip, and then it's not complete, but a little flaky salt on top. Very, very nice. I think Carol will approve of the texture. I think that she would eat like 3 bites and be like, it's enough, because it is so like, it's so much. It's just so much flavor, but like that. So, wow. Oh my God. So the flavor is incredible. Started with good chocolate. It's firm off the spoon, but it just completely like dissolves and melts in your mouth, and you can feel all of the air bubbles like popping. Oh, flaky salt. Get out of town. Get out of town. If that were to turn me into the mother of a satanic spawn, I would say I would eat it anyway. Do you think that this white t-shirt is a intelligent decision for the recipe that I'm making?
I was just thinking you could veer into dangerous areas, but...
Yeah, I already have one tiny spot, but no one's going to notice.
A tiny spot.
Tiny spot. It's a freckle.
This is your mother speaking. You shouldn't have a tiny spot.
I should never have a tiny spot.
You must have another white t-shirt.
Yeah. I have aprons too, but they're all wrinkled.
You want me to come over and press your aprons?
Kind of.
Is that what's going on here?